Chess is a fascinating game. Some play it professionally, others play it in chess clubs, and a larger portion of the population play it for fun and as a recreational game at home. The good thing about chess is that most people have played it at one time or another, and there usually isn't a problem finding someone to play. Nowadays, chess has become very popular on the internet, and you can find opponents all over the world. If you play on the internet, the pieces are already in their starting position, but if you play at home, it's a good thing to know how to set up the pieces on the board. The chessboard has 64 squares. They alternate in color between dark and light squares, like a checkerboard. In chess, we usually say white for the light squares and black for the dark squares. Some boards use black, brown, or green as the colors of the dark squares, and blue has become quite popular on the internet. If you have your own chess set, the white pieces are usually white, but the black pieces can vary in color. The plastic pieces are usually black, and the wooden pieces a shade of brown. You have two rooks. They go in the corner. One on the left side and one on the right side. They are not the first pieces that are developed. They come into play a little later in the game. The problem is that beginners in chess have a tendency to completely forget about them. So the game goes on and the rooks stay in their corners. Try not to forget them. They are powerful. Next to the rooks come the knights. You have two of them. We sometimes refer to them as horses, and they move very differently than the rooks and the other pieces. They have the ability to jump over your own and the opponent's pieces, but we will get back to how the pieces move in our next tutorials. Next to the knights come the bishops. Even though they move in the same manner, there is one difference. One of your bishops is placed on a dark square. The other one is placed on a light square. And in between these pieces, there is room for the king and queen. Their placement can be a little tricky, and we will get back to that shortly. So on your back row, you have your king and all your officers. In front of them, you have your pawns, and you have 8 of them. They're kind of like your foot soldiers. A lot of beginners don't think much of them, kind of like that they are expendable. They are not, and have a very important role to play. All in all, you have 16 pieces to maneuver. The same goes for black. There is 2 rooks and they go in the corner. Next to the rooks come the knights. Next to the knights come the bishops, one on the dark square and one on the light square. And then you have your queen and you have your king. And in front of your officers, you have your 8 pawns. Let's go back to the king and queen. When you are white, your queen is on the left side of the king. If we flip the board and look at black's perspective, the queen is on the right side of the king. So depending on the color you play, the queen can be either on the right or the left side of the king. Let's flip the board back. No matter how you look at it, your queen is always opposite your opponent's queen. And your king is always opposite your opponent's king. Now here's the way you know where the queen goes. White queen is always placed on a white square, and the black queen is always placed on a black or dark colored square. And there's one more thing you need to know. Playing white, your queen is on the left side of your king. But if the board is not placed correctly, you'll be in for quite a surprise. So the square furthest on the right side, closest to you, has to be a white colored square. And the same goes for black. If your square is white colored, so is his. This is crucial. If you turn the board 90 degrees, you will both end up with a dark colored square furthest to the right, closest to you. That makes your king and queen change place. And that means you might be playing the white pieces, but since your king and queen have changed places, your pieces might be white, but you're playing as if you had the black pieces. And in chess, there are some advantages of having the white pieces. Your game is actually not valid. So always remember to have that square closest on your right side a white colored square. Okay, we have all the pieces on the board again. Let's repeat. We have 2 rooks, one on your left side, one on your right side. Next to the rooks, you have your 2 knights, one on the left side, one on the right side of your king. And then we have 2 bishops, one which is placed on a dark square and one which is placed on a light square. And then you have your queen and king. Now white queen is always placed on a white square. And as long as you know that, there's only one more place left, and that's to place your king. Now the queen is always opposite your opponent's queen, and your king is always opposite your opponent's king. And let's not forget, the square closest to you on the right side has to be white. There is one more thing we need to take a look at. Not all chessboards have numbers on the side of the board, like this, and letters on the bottom, like this. But if it does, the letters from A to H is looking at it from white's perspective. Now usually we would look at this as a column. But in chess, this is called a file. So this would be the A file, and this would be the B file. And the number closest to white is 1. This is not a row, but it's a rank. So this would be the first rank, and this would be the second rank. From black's perspective, the letters will be from H to A, and the number closest to black is 8. It makes it very easy to write up the game moves so that you can go over them at a later time if you want to. But we will come back to how this is done in a later tutorial. This has been the first video tutorial in a series called Chess Basics.